Welcome to If These Walls Could Talk. I'm your host and super CEO, Lindsay Liu. Joining me today is Tina Larsson, the founder and CEO of the Folson Group. As she puts it, she's the McKinsey for real estate, and she works with condos and co-ops across New York City to help them find efficiencies that translate into real money savings. Today, she's going to share with us the origin story of how she got intertwined in the operating finances of buildings and some of the surprising places where buildings spend a lot of money. Tina, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for having me.
Give us a little bit of context about the building that you were in and tee us up for kind of what's to come next.
Yes, so I'm in a big building. Well, everything is relative. I'm in a building with 160 something unit apartments. So it's fairly large. It's an old building. It was built in the 50s when a lot of buildings were built in the 1950s. And then it converted to co-op in the late 80s, which is also very common. And then they had one board that took over when they converted in the 80s, and they were still there when we bought in 2004.
Yes. Are they still on the board?
No.
Okay.
But they were there for a long time. They did not use emails. Well, 2004, they did not use emails. If you wanted to get in touch with them, you had to put a note with a doorman downstairs, or you could call their 212 number. But so we got this note under the door every single year, and they were increasing our maintenance every single year, or HOA fees for you who are not in New York City. And it irritated us, and me specifically.
Specifically you. You're like, us is me.
Us is me.
Yeah.
Probably irritated my husband too, but me more. And so we spoke with some of our neighbors, and they felt the same way. So we organized a coup.
Tell me more about that. So you're going against the board that had been in place. And how many members are on this board?
At the time, I believe they were 9.
It's a big board.
Now there are 3.
I was going to say, that's really impossible to make decisions. Okay. So was that part of the coup?
Well, that happened gradually afterwards. Mm-hmm. So initially, we were organizing. We were meeting in living rooms, and we were trying to figure this out.
In the hallway.
Yes. And not saying anything to anyone. And then we had organized, and I organized it. We had a letter that we left under everybody's door except for the board members. We thought.
Oops.
The night before at 9 p.m., we went to all the doors and we left them under every single non-board member's door. Next morning, we woke up and I was lobbying in the lobby. I was downstairs in the lobby.
Literally in the lobby, being a lobbyist.
Saying, can I get a signature when everybody was leaving for work? I was literally lobbying. First time in my life. And then we realized, we found out from the super at the time that the board had gotten one of these letters. And they were
how?
Well, we probably put one under the door.
You accidentally put one? Or you think maybe a neighbor shared? No conspiracy theories?
Okay. Yeah, we don't. I don't. Doesn't matter. One person found out. So they were literally meeting. They called an emergency meeting with their attorney, and they were meeting all day to try to figure this out. And then we showed up.
I've never met a board that wanted to be on the board that bad.
I know.
Everyone wants off normally.
Well, some people, they fight for being there, and I don't know what they get from it, but they appear to want to hold on to it. And I'm with you. It's a difficult thing. So we showed up. We had enough signed proxies, that we had already won the vote walking into the annual meeting. It was a very contested meeting, lots of screaming and yelling and this and that. Mm-hmm. And then the co-op, the boards, or the building's council, he was saying, oh, this proxy is not valid. This proxy is not valid. This proxy is not valid. And we went like, no. These proxies are valid. He said, oh, I can't read what signature that is. So therefore it's not valid. Long story short, 3 days later, I guess they couldn't deny that the new board won.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not on the board because you can only be one board member from each apartment, right? And between myself and my husband, let's say that he's more diplomatic.
He's the politician. You're the lobbyist, right?
I'm
That's how you divide and conquer.
Yes. So I am not on the board. I've never been on that board. I've been on other nonprofit boards, but I have never been on our co-op board. Anyways, the new board had majority, except for 2 people were still there who were delaying things. And they asked me, because I was an analyst on Wall Street, so they asked me if I could find some savings. So I did what I know from Wall Street, which is to go out, pretend to be a buyer on all the open houses for similar buildings. And then once I had enough financial statements from all of those pretending to be buyer apartments, I put together a benchmark, which is what you do in finance. You have to compare to CVS to Dwayne Reed in order to see which one is the better buy, right? So I did that and then made some phone calls, eliminated some services that were duplicate. And we were able to save our own building $340,000 in the first 3 years.
Wow. I'm going to pause on that. What was the total? What's the percentage that ended up being?
So at the time, it was over 10%.
That's huge, because that's the amount you're supposed to put away in reserve, right? There's your reserve right there.
Yes. And it was enough saving, and that was only the first 3 years. That became bigger and bigger to the point where it's too difficult for us to calculate. So we have stopped calculating. But I mean, it's millions by now.
Wow.
It paid all of those savings over the years, paid for new roofs, 2 facade repairs, cycles, new elevators, new lobbies, new hallways, a brand new gym, more storage units, solar panels on the roof. So a bunch of stuff.
So you didn't lower the HOA fees necessarily. You used it to improve the value of the building over time.
Yes.
Very cool.
That's correct.
Are you, by the way, are you calling us from the same building?
Yes.
That this whole drama happened?
Yes. This is the apartment where this is where we met. It looks slightly different, but this is where we met.
Follow-on question for you. Did any of the old board thank you after, because you saved them money?
Some did. Some not boards, but some owners write us thank you letters, testimonials. They send us postcards and they love us. And the old board members, the ones that we threw out, not so much.
Okay, so more new friends than enemies, though.
More friends than enemies.
What was it like in the hallway bumping into them?
It is.
Turn your head.
I mean, well, you know, they do. Yes, we had a social. So we have this long. We have 2 buildings, one north side and south side. So we have this long lobby. So in the middle of the lobby, we very often, or the new board now used to not have anything. The new board, they have twice a year, they have a social. So they have some wine and cheese and maybe music and hanging out and, you know, whatever. And it's really, really nice. And it's become, each year it's become, or each time there's just more and more people. So it's become really a very nice community. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the beginning, so you can go down to the basement at the entrance. So the old board members who lived at the north building, who had to pass by all of us people having fun, they used to go down in the basement, go through the entire basement space over to their building.
Tunnel out. They really didn't want to see you.
No.
You know, you did a good thing though. Okay, so one follow-on question for that would be, so the building asked you, they said, hey, Tina, you know numbers. You know how to do this. Can you run an analysis? And so you just took the tools that you had, but was there any moment where you said, how do I do this for a building? Or did you just run right into it? Like, did you do any research first? Did you just apply your tactics from Wall Street directly and it just worked?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just used I did what I know. I
Yeah.
used my analytical skills, and I said, so first I got the statements. So looking at one financial statement in isolation, how would you know if something is expensive? It says elevator service contract,
Mm-hmm.
$2,000. Okay, what does that mean?
Did you
Is
look
that
past years then as well?
Yes, yes. And now, we started, so the financial statements that was available at the time was 2010. So now we have all of these years, and we put every single client's building into our database. We put every single prospect client who send us their financial statement, they're in our database. So we have this very comprehensive database with everything down to the very, very small, like $40 a year for new
Batteries.
brooms or whatever they.
Yeah. Light bulbs. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What was the most surprising thing that you saw in your building's budget when you first got it?
Well, the most surprising thing that ever happened to me was that we were able to save $340,000. Initially, my husband and I said to ourselves, so not the whole board, but the two of us, we said wouldn't it be cool if we can save $10,000?
So that was your goal. Way to over deliver. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
So,
on brand for you.
So that's the most surprising. When it comes to largest wasted money, in my opinion, is marble polishing. And I have nothing against marble polishing people.
You're going to have some lobbyists in your lobby soon.
So,
the marble industry.
but it's not the service in itself. The reason I think that it's a waste is in certain buildings, is that you have a staff of 9, 10. One time we had a staff of 24, and we said to the super or the resident manager, we said, you're spending $50,000 a year on having an outside firm polishing your marble and your brass when you have a staff of 24 people that are union. And every time I walk into the lobby, I see them standing around and doing nothing. And we said to the resident manager, would you be willing to have the staff do it? And he said, yeah, but how would that work? I said, we'll buy a machine. It's $2,000 for a machine, the polishing and all of this. The people who sell it to us, they will come out and train your staff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can select the people that you think might be good. So in our building, for instance, the nighttime doorman, the one who starts at 11 p.m. and finishes at 8, he just wants something to do so he doesn't fall asleep.
He's bored anyway.
Yeah, and then he's proud that he's the one who keeps the marble in the lobby beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's in our building. So we suggested to this resident manager, we said, well, maybe you have one, and they had 2 overnight supers or doorman. So I'm like, in between 2 people, so he asked them, and they said, of course. And the staff normally want to do whatever is good for the community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that is one of the costs that very often, obviously, if you have a smaller building and no staff, and that's a different story. Maybe you want to bring them in twice a year or something, but in a large building with a large staff,
you can utilize the staff. Okay.
Yes.
What is the most egregious expense you've seen on a building's budget?
Well, can we get into politics? No. I was going to say real estate taxes. But I do have one fun, though. So water and sewer is divided.
Mm-hmm.
They're both based on gallons of water used.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it divided? Is there any history?
Do you know?
No.
Not a trick question. Okay. Different departments?
So they have the water is one rate, and the sewer is a different rate. And we have heard, oh, the property manager, they divide it, and it's a very complicated formula, but it's all based on gallons. So they just lump them together and then give the water department 10% and the sewer department 90%. I mean, why are we seeing two different charges? It doesn't make sense. So it's not outrageous, but it's kind of like a quirky little thing
double
that I don't.
A little bit. Yeah. Okay. Well, people don't like to be taken advantage of, right?
No, but I mean, it's just an accounting thing that I think is completely nonsensical. Kind of like the tax cert.
For the people that are in New York that might be listening, can you share a little bit about what that is?
Yes. So there's a tax certiorari. It's a tax attorney who appeals your real estate taxes that you're assessed every year. And so you get a letter saying, okay, so after the city is on a July 1st fiscal year or just a June 30th fiscal year. So the year ends in July, you get a notice saying that, okay, your tax bill for the year, your assessed value is so that your tax is going to be $1 million. And then you pay a fee of $400 to a tax cert who then appeals that assessed value. And then the city comes back and they said, okay, it's only worth $997,000. Okay, so you get your taxes reduced. And one of the things is that and we didn't get to that yet. So we started, as a result of us saving money, we consult co-op and condo boards. And so we always compare two costs. If our client is currently paying $2,000 for an elevator service contract and they're not happy with our elevator service contract, they'll ask us if they can get a different quote. We will find a different quote, and now we have $1,500 versus $2,000, and you can compare the two. When it comes to the tax cert, you can't compare them. You can't object twice. So therefore, you don't know how good or how bad your tax cert is. Because you don't know, would someone else do better?
Right.
We don't know. So it's kind of a crazy industry, and they're
tons of gamble. Yeah.
Yes.
But are they often incentivized off of the savings that they get you?
Yes, they are. Mm-hmm. And very often, it used to be higher percent, and now we were seeing that that's typically 10%. But the thing is that, what if someone else could get your 1 million down to 900,000? You don't know that. You have no idea. How much time and effort did that person put in to make $2,000 for your building, right? So you don't really know, and you can't compare it to anyone. So therefore, you're kind of stuck with whoever you pick. I mean, you can basically
like your next benchmarking venture. Go run a survey. Back to your building's budget. Another question on how you kind of assessed all of this. Would you recommend that buildings do like a financial analysis every so often? What's the frequency they should be doing it on? And I asked that because I was in a small self-managed condo a number of years ago, one of my earlier condo boards that I was on. And we just got very lucky that our treasurer happened to also be a financial auditor for the UN.
Wow.
We just got very lucky that of the few units there, we had somebody that kind of knew what they were doing. And she was like, these water bills make no sense. And there was a commercial unit there were two commercial units in the building. And the sponsor actually ran the commercial units. So she was renting the units from us, and we realized that they'd never split the water meters. They were running a spa.
Really?
A spa. So like they're using a lot of water, right? and a cafe and, things that were high water volume. And over the years, we were like, this feels like a really high water bill. And what we did was a study where we ended up splitting the water meters and discovered that it was like 80% of the water costs were the commercial space. So she did all of the analysis and said, you owe us this much in back pay for having overpaid on the common charge, all of that kind of for us. But I'm assuming most buildings don't have that specialty and probably are just like, I guess that's what you pay for water.
Yes. I mean, it's not. The problem, as I said before, was that it's not very easy to know if any cost is high or low, or even makes sense if you're just looking at one statement in isolation. If you don't look at a different building or some other numbers, I mean, she had seen water bills before. So she felt that if the entire UN, if their water bill is the same as our little building with 6 units, then there's something wrong. I mean, so she had something to compare to, but it's not easy if you don't have anything to compare to. And there's not very many resources to find that information. Now, we don't share our information because our information is proprietary. But so it's not easy to find comparisons. I mean, I don't know how you would go about that. Would you knock on the neighboring building and say, can you share your financial statement so we can compare?
Yeah. That sounds like what you did in the early days was a little legwork, showing up at places, finding out, getting the details. So maybe there could be some value in some people getting together and doing that.
Yeah.
The small buildings need the most.
You think?
They just have the fewest resources. Just no resources,
Yeah, but the large buildings don't have any resources either.
All right, so moral of the story. No one has any money. We're all running out of money. Yeah.
Nobody's got
Too
money.
expensive. The rent is too damn high.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Tina, for coming on and sharing your story with us today. How can people get in touch with you if they want access to some of this proprietary data?
So they can reach out on our website. It's www.thefolsongroup.com. That's THEFOLSON group.com. And the reason I say that is because I'm from Sweden, so I'm not very good at pronunciating. And very often I get an email saying introduction to the Folson group. And I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can reach out on LinkedIn. You can DM me there. But on our website, we have contact us, sign up for this, get free tools, all kinds of stuff.
Perfect. Thank you, Tina. That's today's episode of If These Walls Could Talk. Super is an AI-powered communication and workflow tool for property managers. To learn more about Super, visit us at www.hiresuper.com. And to share a story you have for a future episode, email us at hello@hiresuper.com. Thank you again, Tina.
Thank you, Lindsay.